Welcome to the Culture is Healing podcast, brought to you by Checking In. At Checking In, we create customized wellness tools for First Nations communities, centering each nation's language, culture, and traditions to support healing and well-being for their people. To learn more about our work at Checking In, please visit our website at checkingin.co. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy this episode. Aichka. Ichuwal, Antapa Hokuletsa, Nitstaminas, Halalt, Kawitson, Lyaxon. Hello, everyone. My traditional name is Hokuletsa. My English name is George Harris Jr., and I'm calling today from my home here in Staminas. This is the community that my father is from. This was the community my mother married into, and this was the community that my siblings and I were raised in. I belong to George Harris Sr. and my late mother, Sylvia Harris. My grandparents from my father's side of my family are the late Lawrence and Irene Harris. My grandparents from my mother's side of my family are the late Bernard and Nora George. My familial connections to Halalt come from my mother, Sylvia, and my grandmother, Nora. My connections to Kawitson come from my grandfather, Bernard, and both sides of my family, I have familial connections to Lyaxon. The name Hokulitsa is a name that has been passed down through generations and generations of my family. My father carries that name. He's passed the name on to myself as well as a few other family members. Thank you all so much for taking the time. Once again, my name is Hokulitsa, and I am the host of the Culture is Healing podcast. And today I have the opportunity to host a friend of mine as well as friend of the family. Her name is Kelsey, and I'd like to open the floor for her to introduce herself. Hi, Chika. Kelsey.
Hey, I'd Squale, and Kelsey Crawford. I was born and raised in Nanaimo and Lanceville, so I was raised on Snuneymuxw and Snuneymuxw's territory. Very lucky to be kind of in the Nanaimo area my whole life. My family comes from Yugoslavia on my grandfather's side and England on my both grandmother's sides, and Scotland on my grandfather's side. And both my parents have been in Canada their whole lives. And yeah, it's been lucky for me and really blessed to work in the Staminas community as well. So I definitely have been connected to all the communities throughout my schooling. So now it's mostly my elementary education was all in Seaview Elementary, which is in Snuneymuxw. And so I grew up playing and hanging out in the upper reserve with some friends that I grew up with there. So it was kind of always in my life.
Yeah, hi, Chika. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really cool. So our connection is, Kelsey, like she had mentioned, had worked in our schools here in Staminas, and my sister Daniela is still working there as well, and so Kelsey had and Daniela had become friends, and so through the connection through my sister, you got to meet Kelsey. Over the last decade or so, we've crossed paths quite frequently, and I thought it would be really cool to sit down and have a conversation, and it's really thank you for agreeing to come and sit down with me today, my friend. I appreciate you.
Yeah, Hitchcock.
Yeah, and so we'll get into some of the discussion questions. I love being able to share some of the stories that really have a special place in my heart. And the name of our podcast is Culture is Healing. I think there's been a very really amazing increase of cultural engagement, not only just in our communities, but outside of our communities as well, into the world. There's been an increase of cultural awareness and cultural sensitivity in the school systems and beyond. And I, really would love to hear some of your, experiences, going through that cultural awareness and cultural sensitivity, you being welcomed into our community and being welcomed in by our people, and having those opportunities to see that increase of cultural activity and how much healing that is brought to not only just our people but especially our young ones. They are our future, and I'd love to hear some of the stories that you carry with you from your time here in Staminas.
Yeah, for sure. Um, when I think of cultural healing, I immediately think of the youth because that's, 99% of what my role in the community was working
Mm-hmm.
with youth. And, as a response to that, I obviously got to know the community very well, and I got to know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of members that worked within the schools, but also outside of the schools and families, and end up knowing all the siblings and teaching,
Mm-hmm.
six family members and things
Yeah.
like that. So you see them over a span, and you see the change, which was really neat for me, was to see the change for not only the students, but the whole community and the
Mm-hmm.
environment in the school, and to be a part of that was really cool. Um, for me, like thinking about culture as healing, I view it very differently now than I would have, 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely had an impact on my life as well, which was, maybe unexpected. I
Mm-hmm.
started out leaving my practicums and my teaching degree, and I had run into somebody that I had gone to elementary school with, and he said, "Hey, I'm TOCing in this community, this First Nations community, and they are always looking for TOCs, and the
Mm-hmm.
district was really hard to get into at that point." And he put me in contact with Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
And I emailed him, and I'm just some young girl, and I'm like, "Hey, I really want to teach." It's like, "Please let me come teach."
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually winter. It was December, and it was snowing a lot. And the first time I was supposed to go out and meet him, it was snowing,
Mm-hmm.
and school got canceled. And he's like, "Oh yeah, school's canceled. Sorry." And I'm like, "No." It was like a big deal to me, right? And
Mm-hmm.
anyways, eventually I started going out there, and he kind of brought me in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
once I started TOCing, he got me TOCing, and then all the teachers kept on getting me because I would stick around, which was pretty cool. It was a
Mm-hmm.
big high turnover rate. And to see the differences, for me personally, I feel like when I think about cultures healing and the youth, it's like a sense of belonging, and it's a sense of, I think, of them maybe in a world where everything they had in their from their ancestors was taken away, and it
Mm-hmm.
was removed from their life, and they maybe didn't feel that because they were not in the generation that went to residential schools, but they felt it because now they
Mm-hmm.
don't know where they fit in the world, and they don't know who they are deep down and intrinsically. And it's one thing if you grew up without much of a culture. I don't feel like I grew up with much of a culture. I didn't grow up where my family initially came from, and being a mixed Canadian, I don't think I really have, I don't have ceremonies and I don't have things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Of course, the Christian holidays, but I feel like the students really latch on to the culture because they feel like, oh my gosh, I share this in common with other people. And
Mm-hmm.
I can feel closer to my peers and to my family through this culture. And then I feel like I have a sense of place and belonging and something that is special to me and to my identity and to my community. And I think that for students that maybe felt a little lost personally, or they struggled in school, or they were going through a tough time in their life, especially for those, we had a very high percentage of students that were maybe in the care of someone other than their family. And for them to have something to latch onto that felt
Mm-hmm.
them grounded in their community was huge. And I saw that in a lot of specific individuals where, you couldn't get anything out of them all day, and then you get them out there and they're singing, and you're like, there's
Mm,
your voice. Like,
mm,
and I think that being able to excel in something that isn't just academic, or, oh, I'm good at soccer, or, everybody has something, but some of them didn't. And I think that culture did really heal a lot of them in that way, or it helped to heal them a little bit at least. We can't fix all the problems with it and all the things in our lives that are going on. But I feel like I saw kids just, it was like they were just waiting for that to be there for them. And when it was, they just grabbed
mm,
it and ran with it. And, we could say that a lot of adults brought things in, but I feel like the kids really drove it.
mm,
Nothing in our school would have excelled if the kids weren't latching onto it and driving it themselves. And I think that
mm,
that's really important to think about too. Um, and that just shows us how much it means to them.
mm,
So when I think of culture as healing, that's really what I think about. And I think that that's could be true with a lot of cultures, reviving their ancestral ways of living and following seasons and following all those
mm,
things. I think that again, any culture that's going to really speak to people like, oh, people did this for years and it's special and I want to do that too. And I think that our students and our youth were the same way.
mm,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, it was like very lucky for me that I had the opportunity, as a community member and at the time a staff member to have that freedom to be able to attend the jam sessions that were happening, and I got to incorporate that those opportunities into my job.
Mm.
Having children who were in care, be invited down to come and join the jam sessions and engage in culture and see other peers of theirs engaging in culture. And so that was very encouraging for me and uplifting for me. And I really appreciated the way that the staff had empowered our young people to really engage in that process. And at times I was really proud of you for how you carried and conducted yourself when you were here in our community. I had seen you empower our young people, and especially our young girls in the singing. I seen you a few times. When there was some of our young ones who were a little reluctant to come and sit at the big drum that we have at the school, and I saw you sit down and invite some of the young people to come and join you, and then you get it going, and that made me proud. That let me know that not only did my sister trust you, but it was an earned trust that you had, definitely had taken that time to really engage with the young people and really engage with our elders and knowledge keepers. And you took time to learn our songs, and took the time to really press in to our cultural ways of being. And that is huge. And that wasn't just something that was given to you. That was something that was earned. You earned that over a long period of time.
It
Yeah.
was a
So
long period of time.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just thank you for Heichka for the work that you did whilst you were here in my community, and thank you for uplifting our young ones, in your time here. And I really appreciate that. And that's a testament still today to the work that you've done, because I know undoubtedly if any of our young ones see you out in public, they would be running over to give you a big hug, because you were so loved and appreciated in our community. So Heichka.
I get reach outs mostly through social media now, but they'll be like, "Hey," I'm like, "Hi, still here." It's so funny. Yeah, no, I
Hmm.
felt very lucky to be so accepted in a community. And I always took it as, I'm a guest here and I'm a guest in this school and in this community, and it's my job to do what the community wants with
Mm-hmm.
the youth's education and with the culture. And, I never took for granted, an elder sharing something with me or a knowledge keeper sharing things with me. And I would always just listen and just take it in. And, as I would with my own grandma, who
Mm-hmm.
definitely I still do that with. And I always was willing to just be honored that that was being shared with me, and then know that then it could be used to help pass that on to the youth who maybe don't
Mm-hmm.
get that opportunity to see that person, or are thirsty for that information. And always be aware that I can say, oh, so and so shared with me, and then give the
Mm-hmm.
information. And um yeah, I was really lucky to be, Daniela was one of the first people I met at
Mm-hmm.
the Astuat Elam.
Mm-hmm.
And she was very welcoming and very willing to share things with me about, oh, just relax. They need time to, come in and settle. I'm like, oh, okay. She was always willing to teach me, and I was always willing to learn. And
Mm-hmm.
that was really important. And really cool to hear, her talking to the kids and singing with
Mm-hmm.
the kids. We always did, Tikwayeth in the morning, and she explained the importance of that to me. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I was always able to pick up, over the years, I picked up so many little snippets that I didn't even realize I was picking those things up. And then now I'll say things and people are like, oh, really? And I'm like, well, yeah, like, doesn't everybody know this? It's just like comes naturally now to have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those teachings and a lot of that knowledge just
Mm-hmm.
about seasons or about, certain animals or things like that. Just little
Mm-hmm.
things here and there that you kind of just learn over the years, but always willing to just take it in and
Mm-hmm.
be lucky that I was in a place that was so learned. And I
Mm-hmm.
was always learning, which is kind of how I am in general. I like to learn new things, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was always really cool.
Right on.
Yeah.
Actually, we'll let's kind of lean into that, and that's actually one of the questions I absolutely love to ask is, what are some of the teachings that have been passed on to you, from those elders, or my sister, or whoever it might be, that you carry with you, and you keep kind of close to your heart. you know would you mind sharing some of those?
Yeah, I thought a lot about this one because there's so many. um I know there's so many that affect our students,
Mm-hmm.
whether it comes to how we start our day, to how we do our work, to how we hold ourselves, to what we do when there's celebrations in the communities or funerals in the
Mm-hmm.
communities. Just there's just a lot of things that it's like a way of life. You follow these little
Mm-hmm.
teachings to stay in your best body, mind, and spirit. And I think one of the big ones that I am able to still use, especially still teaching and teaching in Snuneymuxw
Mm-hmm.
at Fairview, I have, a lot of Indigenous students that unfortunately don't get a ton of exposure to culture. I
Mm-hmm.
think living off reserve can be harder for them. So I try to bring a lot in just to give them those bits too. But the seasonal teachings are very big,
Mm-hmm.
whether it comes from the name of the month, which we actually had George Seymour as our Hulkmeetnam teacher this year. So he touched on this a lot, which was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we're talking about the animals at the time or what we do during that season, or, also a big teaching that I learned slowly, really slowly, was about Big House and about
Mm-hmm.
how it affected our students and how to understand that, they may be tired or, things like that, that definitely
Mm-hmm.
affected my side of that. Those are all things that I think is just for me is like just knowledge now that I know and that I can think about or just be aware of when I'm talking to students.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, not talking about Big House too much, but knowing those things can be really helpful
Mm-hmm.
because it could be affecting a student that other teachers may not know that. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, I still get invited to things and students will
Mhm.
say, "Oh, did you know?" and things like that. But I'm proud of our students when I see them
Mhm.
taking part in those celebrations and those journeys, and I know that they're
Mhm.
proud of themselves, and I think that that's really big. Some of them I knew they were too little for it and now they're older, but I think that all of the seasonal stuff was huge, and then that
Mhm.
kind of morphed into learning more about the medicines in the last few years of being
Nice.
there.
Mhm.
Ramona and Ferg taught me a lot about different medicines, and Ramona always gave me lots of salves and lots of
Mm.
rubs, and
Mhm.
she'd tell me what it's for. And late Faye gave me lots of teachings on medicines and herbs
Mm.
and things, and I still have some gachmin that I refuse to use because she gave it to me, and I just keep it in my cupboard and I look at it every once in a while. I take a little bit. I have a big bag she gave me, so I'm like
Yeah.
slowly
Mhm.
using it, but little things like that are they're things that come up in conversation that people aren't necessarily teaching it to you, but you soak it
Mm.
in. It's like, oh, your hand is sore, here's a rub, it has this in it and that'll help. And it's
Mm.
not really a teaching, but it is if you look at it that way. And so it was really neat to engage in some of those things. Like Fergie did some dandelion oil with them and taught the kids how to make that. And so I got to watch and actually be a part of that. So I got to see
Mm.
the process and how it was done. And then at my school this year, we had a Indigenous, I think she's an Indigenous support worker, and she worked in our school and she's from a different territory, but they did medicines as well.
Mhm.
And so she did some medicine pouches that you
Mm.
carry with you. And then so she gave us a whole list, and the kids got to pick what they thought they needed, and then they could
Mm.
carry that little pouch with them. So it was really neat to have her come in. And I said, anything you've got, like, I want you to bring it into our class. And
Mm.
so it was neat. And all the students really thought it was cool. And, our students could always go down and chat with her. And she did a little bit of singing that I
Mm.
engaged in as well this year, which was really neat. And so we worked together a lot, me and her. I think she was happy that I was wanting to bring her stuff into the classroom. So the medicines was a big one. And then I think the other one, which is a teaching, but I feel like it's always been a way in my life, is just about our elders. And,
Mm.
having so many that I had been very engaged with that have now passed, it just makes it so much more real of how important it is to honor them and
Mhm.
allow them the time and the space, and go out of your way to make them feel needed and wanted and heard and appreciated and taken care of. My own
Mhm.
grandmother turns 96 next week. And, if she asked me to do something, I'd do it.
Mm.
If she needs help with something, I am there. I drop whatever I'm doing, right? And
Mm.
you have to, because then they're gone. And then,
Mhm.
you lose everything that they carry with them. And I learned so much from different elders. From Papa Ed was my first
Mm.
elder, and remember I didn't even know the students that well, and he started talking. And I mean,
Mm.
if you know Papa Ed, he didn't talk that much when he was out,
Mhm.
right? So he one day just started talking, and we were in Daniela's room, and
Mhm.
one of the kids was like, everybody shh. It's so funny. And Daniela whips out her recorder, right?
Mm.
It's just
Mhm.
like everybody class stopped. Like we all just stopped, and it was great. And it was, all of a sudden he was just telling a random story and everybody's
Yeah.
like, cool. And I think that that really showed me how much the kids do know, they respect their elders. They really do.
Mm.
And, there was always the first people in line at any sort of luncheon that we had at school or anything. You'd go up to them and be like, okay, yeah, I'm getting an elder their food. You're amazing. Like
Mm.
they knew if they were first in line, they had to go feed that elder. And,
Mhm.
it was really neat to see that that was already really just in them as kids. That's what they knew to do.
Mm.
And when, Pearl spent a lot of time with late Pearl, and
Mhm.
I know her 4-year memorial's coming up soon. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh my God, how has it been that long? It's,
Mm.
I spent a lot of time with her, a
Mhm.
lot of time. And of course, we were both sewers. So we spent a lot of time, and in the kitchen, and
Mm.
lots of laughter with her. And I remember she used to just walk by me, and I was learning the language, and she'd go, do it. And I was like, she was trying to teach me all the ton
Yeah.
proper ways of doing speaking, and it was just those little things were so funny with her. But
Mhm.
still, that was her teaching you every moment. She was an
Yeah.
educator and an elder and an educator. And I think just, yeah, knowing, I learned so much from them that, time is important and you
Mm.
take your time. And time doesn't always go by a clock.
Yeah.
And, it's, yeah, I miss being able to just sit and listen to that. I do.
Mm.
I don't get that as much anymore. And I think that those were the things that were so important. I was looking at who else I had wanted to make sure I talk about because so many elders,
Mm.
Seatla Mabel
Mhm.
Mitchell, she was one of the first Seatlas that I knew.
Mhm.
I think for a while I thought her name was Seatla. Learned what it meant because that's what they called her. They all just called her Seela,
Mhm.
right? And working at the primary school, doing a lot of TOCing over there and with
Mhm.
Roxy. And I learned a lot from Roxy too. Not an elder yet, but she taught
Mm.
me a lot about the seasons and all the things. And Mandy taught me a lot of language. We did a couple summer sessions with her, which was really
Mm.
amazing. So just really, like I made a list of things that I still do. So give your first away,
Mm.
always giving your
Mhm.
first of anything away. And I taught
Yeah.
that to my kids this year at
Come
Fairview. I
on
was
now.
like, oh, you got to give it away. And they're like,
Mhm.
what? So I'm like, yeah, I know it's hard.
Mm.
But, just being, being honored that you were able to make it,
Mm.
that you want to give it away because you're like, wow, I made this. This is so cool. And I got the opportunity to learn this and I want to share it with somebody. And I think that's so important. Um, Everything in fours, I still go by that all the time. Is
Mm.
everything's in fours. That's just, in there. And I think the biggest thing that I learned being a Juanitam settler that I have my family. We spend a lot of time together, but it's very small.
Mm.
I think I asked somebody one time how many cousins they had, and they laughed and they said, that's such a white thing to say. And I was like, I have
Mm.
five. It's like
Mm.
so funny, right? But just the community, that was one thing that I just thought was so cool was how everybody, even when the kids would get at each other, if somebody was upset, everything dropped for that person. And I saw it in the youth a lot in
Mm.
school. If one person was sad or, something had happened or a family member had passed away, all of a sudden, all that, like whatever drama is off the table, and we're all here for you.
Mm.
And I've seen that go extend into the community hugely with, whether it's selling cards because, my kid needs to go to this tournament or anything.
Mm.
Like I always said to my students, like, do you realize how lucky you are to have that?
Mm.
Because that's for, a settler, that's not normal.
Mm.
I have my small family. I have my parents to help me and my sister, you know, maybe my couple of my cousins, but you've got families that are distantly related and they're all like, yeah, I got you. What do you need? And I was like,
Mm.
that's to see everybody hold each other up that way was really special. And I think
Mhm.
that's something that we really did see start to come into the schools and not
Mm.
necessarily a teaching, but I think just an awareness by
Mhm.
watching that happen so many times was just like, wow, that's really special, really, really special. And I don't know if that's really special to some of the communities here.
Mm.
I don't know that all communities are like that because I haven't been there, but in Staminas especially, and I think Shemanis and things as well, it's quite special. Yeah,
Mm.
really, really neat. But the elders, I think, are the biggest one. Just to know that they're so important.
Mm.
And not
Yeah.
just because of language, just everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Even hearing you speak, like all the elders that you mentioned, and the ones that had gone, and that for us, that's our treasure.
Mm,
Everyone in Western society is really pushing for holding like monetary and physical wealth
things.
our people were striving for something else.
Mhm.
That preservation of knowledge and language and stories and songs. That's our wealth, and it's so cool to hear you talking about that. And I love hearing that. And too, I have a really strong belief, that we have allies such as yourself and Cameron, who are out there, and Colleen, and in the Western society, and you're there. You have an understanding of our people and our ways of being, where um, you have a little bit more of an opportunity to bring some awareness to some people. Specifically. Obviously, we're not going to talk about details, but why in the wintertime are these children tired? Well, there's you know the cultural teachings are taking place outside of actual school time, and so their other place of learning is in our longhouse.
Yeah.
And that's very important as well. And so now that you know this information, you have that opportunity to bring awareness to other teachers and settlers who might not understand. You can shed a little bit of light and say, what, cut them a little slack. There's other things happening that we can't share, but there are cultural things happening. This is
Mhm.
why this child, or maybe group of children, are tired. And so I
Yeah.
think that's very important too. And so you have a very vital role in the education process, not only just of our children, but educating settlers as well. And
Mhm.
thank you for your willingness to take that time to sit and to learn, and now also to have that opportunity to pass some of that information on to help encourage people to learn more. And it's amazing to see. And it's like I said, you play a vital role, my friend. So Haichka.
Michka.
So as we're taking a look into some of our undoubtedly you've had an opportunity to engage in some amazing cultural activities at our school.
Mhm.
I was going to ask you if there had been any that come to mind that kind of hold a special place in your heart for your time here in Staminas, as well as obviously your time in the school district as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's actually way too many experiences to name.
Yeah.
I've been a part of a lot of, not a lot. I've been invited to be a part of a select amount of very private cultural celebrations,
Hmm.
which I just feel honored to have been a part of. And that was always, again, usually for my youth, and their
Mm.
families reached out and said, "Hey, or your student is doing this and they want you to come." And I thought
Mm.
that was really special because I know that that's very special.
Hmm.
So those obviously took part, and that was kind of like a very private thing to be just hold deep and close to my heart.
Mm.
Um, and then things at the school, there was actually a lot of really neat things that we got to be a part of over the years at the school. My introduction to language and singing and dancing all started with Adam Manson,
Hmm.
with the youth. I did do some we always did Tikweath in the mornings, and then
Hmm.
we sang Stiminas Mistimoch as well. And I got to learn
Hmm.
that from your dad and
Yeah.
Daniela, which was neat. And she'd say, "Everybody sings it like this, but it's supposed to be like this." And I'm like, "Okay." And then later I'd be like, "Daniela says that
Hmm.
this is the real way to say it." Um, but then Adam's dream was always to bring pride, be proud of
Mm.
who you are. And that was always his thing. And me and him, we connected very quickly because I think his thing was really to try to get the kids involved. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna help." And he was like, "Okay, I like you. You're here for the right reasons." And he taught me so much language and to play with the language because kids play, right? And
Mm.
kids don't like math because they have to sit there and listen to you tell them about math, and then they have to sit and do a bunch of work. So like that's not
Mm.
how they want to learn. They learn through play. You look at our primary students, everything is a song or a
Mm.
game or an activity. And so he really, I feel like he broke the mold right at the beginning of like, let's play with our language.
Mm.
Let's learn through play. And they loved it. They were like, when
Mm.
is Adam coming? And they really loved it. And it
Mhm.
started a love for the language
Mm.
and the singing. And I remember when we first started singing, there was a couple people singing, and the kids would just stand there like this. It was so funny
Their
because you're like, what
sleeve
are you
over their mouth.
doing? Yeah, they always put their hand in front of their mouth, and they were scared to be proud of who they were.
Mm.
And they had spent so many years, and I'm sure your generation and your parents' generation, being ridiculed for
Mhm.
being proud of who they were, which is ridiculous. Why would you ever be ridiculed for being proud of who you are as a person?
Mm.
And luckily nowadays, it's still there. It always will be because there's people in the world that are like that, but it's less common now.
Mhm.
And I'm so thankful for that. And I think that some of the things that happened at the school maybe helped to change that for a lot of people.
Mm.
Um, but it was a hard drive, it was a hard sell at first. And I started learning the songs because I thought, oh my gosh, more of us need to sing
Mm.
to show them that it's okay to mess up. Like I'll yell real loud and sound ridiculous. Look at me. I'm Juanita and I'm singing your songs. Come on, let's go. Right. And so the kids would I always tried to make it a like show them by doing and
Mhm.
always show by doing, right? That's how we teach. That's how we learn to teach is I do, we do, you do.
Mhm.
And I always had to be the one to be like, it's okay, let's do it. You're safe here. It's just us. Who cares? It's just us. We're doing
Mhm.
it. Look at that. And it took a couple really brave kids to start,
Yeah.
you know, with that. And we had a lot of kids that were really reluctant because I think that their experiences were not so good and
Mm.
with that before. And over the years, Adam went to bring language to Snuneymuxw and to the district, and that was
Mm.
really cool because he said I need to bring it further, and he is, and he has, and it's great. He's still there doing an amazing job,
Mhm.
and it carried on. We got Fergan as a teacher, and
Mhm.
he brought in Cowichan songs, and his proudness for his culture
Mhm.
really helped. He's a part of private ceremonies and celebrations, and
Mhm.
he had a lot of knowledge. And the kids were like, "Whoa, okay,
Mm.
that's cool." And he played soccer, and he did the things that the kids thought was cool, right? So
Mhm.
they really chomped on that, and we had started with them, and that continued it. And I think that was really neat. And it was funny because there's always some teachers that were so reluctant to sing. And I'm like, if
Mm.
you're not going to sing, how do you expect your kids to sing? Like,
Mm.
I had never sang chants. I had never sang any of that, but you just try, and that was
Mhm.
always a just try. And that was always the most amazing. When I had my leaving celebration with your family,
Mhm.
and we were singing in the middle, my daughter was there, and
Yeah.
she'd come out a few times when I taught there and spent days with my class when she was younger.
Mhm.
And when we got home, she said to me, Mom, you used to tell me about how amazing it was to stand in the middle of that circle
Mhm.
and hear it and feel the dancing and feel the beats. And she's like, I didn't understand it until I came in that circle today. But
Mm.
now I got goosebumps. And I'm like, yeah, it's a
Mm.
whole like out of body experience. It really is. And to feel that coming from so many kids that I've seen struggle
Mm.
in who they are as a person, or being depressed or anxious, or looking at negatively upon themselves, or losing close family, and to see them out there just giving it 120%, it just makes you feel so amazing inside
Mm.
for them, just being so proud of them. And the change of two of us singing at the kids trying to get them to do something to where it ended up
Mm.
was just never thought it would get that big. And that kind of leads into another thing that I thought was really neat was making regalia with the kids. You know, I
Mm.
was a
Mhm.
sewer and I was teaching sewing, and Fergie said, "Hey, I would love to have some shawls for the kids
Mhm.
because we'd like to go and perform."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Okay, how do you make a shawl?" Like, I don't know what a shawl is, you know? And so I talked to Ramona, who became a
Yeah.
very close friend, and I miss her so much. And if you're listening, Ramona, I love you. I miss
Mhm.
you. And she gave me a lot of guidance on what it should look like, what it should not look like, how it should be, how it shouldn't be.
Mm.
Fergie had his ideas because, of course, he knew as well.
Yep.
Got some input from Faye, got some input from Robin, all the people. We
Mhm.
didn't want them to look like ceremonial stuff because that's not okay. We
Mhm.
wanted them to be performance that
Yep.
it was okay to have in the school. And so I really was like, if you got somebody in the community that can teach it, bring them in because I'm not, you know, homo and I don't want to be taking that work from somebody
Mm.
who should be given that honor. And they said, no, it's okay. Fergie had his parents come in. We did a spring break camp and the kids got to make them. So I had made a couple and I showed them how to do it and basically just taught them to sew. And
Mhm.
so, we kept it. I'm always very, very aware that I don't want to appropriate anything and I don't want to take from people that deserve that work or that recognition. And
Mm.
I think that that's why it worked okay was because I was not wanting to be like take over because I don't know, it's not my culture. So I was
Mhm.
very cautious and I took as much leading from people as I could, and Pearl came in and helped us too, and I knew that when she was there it was okay.
Mm.
um so that was really amazing to see the kids make them and then to be dancing with them. And they still
Mm.
use those ones. Those are the
That's
blue
right.
ones and the gray ones. And they still use them. And it makes me so happy that they're being used
Mhm.
because some kids put a lot of heart into those. And to see them want to wear regalia and be so
Mhm.
proud of who they are as people is just amazing,
Mm.
and that's my whole goal with kids, all kids, is for
Mhm.
them to be proud of who they are as a person because
Yeah.
mental health is such a struggle these days. And I went through some mental health stuff in high school, and I don't want them to have to go through that.
Mm.
And I just always want them to feel accepted and proud of themselves and to show off what they know. And so that was one of the biggest, most amazing things I was a part of because it was so many years, and we did go do some performances at Bear Mountain and things like
Mm.
that I got to be a part of and in
Mhm.
Vancouver. So that was really neat.
Mhm.
The other big trip, and I don't know if you really knew about this one or not, when Tim was our principal, and Tim taught me a lot too. Tim and Shauna,
Mhm.
love those guys. Still in connection with them. I actually did some alterations to their outfits for their son's wedding this summer. But Tim did a ton for me. He really
Mm.
helped keep me in the community at first as well, which was, I'm forever thankful to him.
Mhm.
um, Me and Adam and Tim and another teacher at the time, we took a bunch of kids out to Cayucet
Mm.
or Quatsino, sorry, Quatsino. And we did like a cultural 3 days. They had like a huge cultural activities and a bunch of communities came from different places. And Adam worked really hard to teach all the kids their introductions, and
Mm.
they got up and they spoke and people were like, oh my God, they know their
Yeah.
language and they can speak their introduction. Like that's wild. And it was really cool because when we were practicing, they were all like, oh, I got to get up in front of people and I got to say it. And, every time it was like pulling teeth. And
Mm.
they got up there, and it's a lot of youth that have now graduated. Well, they all have now because they were in grades 5 and 6 at the time. I had one grade 5 come, and she cried almost the whole time and
Mm.
basically was like stuck like glue to me. It was really funny.
Mm.
But me and her bonded a lot over the years. She's one of my babies for sure.
Mm.
And yeah, it was amazing to see them get up, and when they heard people saying like, "Wow, you guys had introductions," and they were like, "Oh, yeah, we did." And you could just see them kind of
Yeah.
stand up tall and
Mhm.
be proud of themselves, and that was really, really cool. And I think that for us as teachers to watch them
Mhm.
go through that, and a lot of them hadn't really left their community, so we're in this huge building and we're sleeping in this upstairs of this building. And it's funny because none of them, like, they were allowed to run around and visit other, they met people from other places and they got to
Mhm.
visit and they got to meet people and go take part in activities. They would not leave whatever building us teachers were in
Hmm.
because they didn't want to be far away from us. It was really funny. Like, they just didn't have that safety, right? And it
Mm.
was so funny because I'd be like, "Oh, where's so and so?" I'm like, "Oh, they're right there." It's like, it was funny. A couple of them would be like, "We want to go over to the school." I'm like, "Well, go then." They're like, "Well, can one of you guys come over with us?" We're like, "Oh my gosh, okay, yeah." It's like so funny that they were so
Mm.
nervous to be, running about, which now and then I'd gone to tribal journeys a couple times and they're gone, and those
Mm.
places are huge and
Yeah.
so much more willing to put themselves out there. But that was a really neat experience for me.
Mhm.
Um, to watch a few of them. And, I don't like to name kids' names, but Tim's daughter was there
Mhm.
and she had a really nice time. And I think that that was really neat for her to be a part of, and got pretty close with her over the years as well, which
Mm.
was really
Mhm.
neat. And his son.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so that was a really cool experience. That was a bit earlier on and it was a little bit outside my comfort zone, but I took the risk and
Mm.
went. And yeah, we had a really, really good time. And I think we were like 10, 15 minutes down the road leaving, and one of
Mm.
the students, and again, if I said his name you would know because he's just so funny, and he turns around and he goes, "So when are we coming back here?" And I was like, "We literally just left, bud."
Mm.
And he's like, "I know." It's like so funny. And this is a student that like really struggled in school,
Mm.
really struggled to behave, and spent a lot of his time trying to push your buttons,
Mm.
trying to push you away. And it was such a cool experience for him. Another
Mm.
one that was out there dancing by the end. And it was like,
Mhm.
"Oh my gosh, so and so's dancing," and it was like, everybody's like, "Don't make direct eye contact." It's like amazing to see these kids come out of their
Mm.
shells and to feel like they belong. And a lot of
Mm.
these kids were working with CAM in the skills program. And so that, that shows that they were struggling either internally or learning was hard for them.
Mhm.
So many of them ended up becoming so mature in who they were. And it was really
Mm.
amazing to see that. So I think some of those experiences, those are more in my heart forever
Mm.
because of how it affected the youth. And that
Mhm.
was that was huge because that made me go, "Okay, we need to do more of this. How else can we bring this in? What
Mm.
else can we do to help our students find their path
Mhm.
through culture?" Because that was the healing right
Yeah.
there, right? And I have one student that I know you worked with. I'm pretty sure you worked at the group home, did you? Or with Kwame Lalem? Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, he was such a funny kid. It's like, he was quiet, didn't ever want to do work because it was hard.
Mhm.
And then every time we were in the circle, I'd just look at him and I'd just hold up my drum and he would take it and he would start
Mhm.
drumming. And then he started doing it more and more. And then he started singing. And we were all like, "Oh my gosh, so and so's singing. That's crazy."
Mm.
And to see that was so amazing. And then to see him dancing and then to see him
Mm.
on the big drum, him
Mhm.
and his sisters. And
Mhm.
they're quiet too, and just so cool to
Mm.
see them become leaders, especially for the boys. The boys were really reluctant to sing, and
Yeah.
he was one of the ones that was starting to lead that. And every time I would look at him, and I'm 100%, you as a student want to take my drum and drum, do it. Please do it.
Mhm.
We had a rule that we had to have one adult on the big drum just to keep the beat because it would get a little crazy. But 100%, you want to sit at big drum? Yeah, I don't need to sit here.
Mhm.
This is for you. And I think that that was one reason the kids were more willing to come in was
Mm.
because At first, like you said, at first I had to kind of annoy them. I'd be like, "You're gonna solo," and they'd be like, "No." I'm like, "Yes, you are." And they're like, "No, don't do it,"
Mm.
And then we'd
Yeah.
look at them and we'd be drumming, and they'd be like, "Oh, I have to do it," and we almost pushed them
Mm.
to jump that line. And once they did, they were happy to do it, but they needed that encouragement. And I mean, if they absolutely refused and got scared, like, no, I'm not going to make them do it.
Mhm.
But having them go on the drum was like a little win for me. Anytime
Yeah.
I saw a kid take a jump, take a drum and even start drumming, or sing at
Mhm.
all, or just sing really quiet,
Mm.
or want to sing a certain song, request a song, you know, anytime they took a step in that direction was a win for me. And
Mm.
that's what it was all about. It was all about the kids. And
Mhm.
I'm still like that in my school. I have less Indigenous students in my class because it was 100% before. And now I have, 4 or 5 kind of thing. But
Mm.
they tend to become my little shadows.
Mm.
and, um, and I really want to bring that to them as well. They deserve it and they deserve to have
Yeah.
all of that in their life as well. And a lot of our other students love learning it too. And if it can be helpful for any of them, that's amazing. But I think that, yeah, the singing and dancing and the trips that we took around culture were my biggest
Mm.
events that I would remember forever, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then seeing them at travel journeys, they'd be like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm here to hang out." And they're like, "What?" Yeah. Yeah. I went down to Lummi when it ended there,
Mm.
and that was huge for me personally. Me and my
Mm.
friend went down, and it was absolutely amazing. I saw a lot of kids that I knew down there, and it was really cool to
Mhm.
see that. And I think that all of them should get a chance to go
Mhm.
because that just shows you right there how it's a huge thing. And people are proud to be
Mhm.
Indigenous and they're proud to have their culture and their language and their singing and dancing. And you don't need to be scared. And if somebody's like, "Oh, what's that outfit?" You'd be like, "That's my regalia.
Mm.
Isn't it nice?" And to be proud to wear things that are your culture. And I think that that's so important for our youth. And that's what I try to advocate for them is, if I love skulls, love skulls. I'll wear them. I'm not ashamed to like the color black and red and to like dark Halloweeny things. Why
Mhm.
should you be scared because you like your culture? And that's just something I try to promote with the kids.
Mhm.
Yeah. So long-winded answer, but those are my memories that I just hold really close to me. And
Mhm.
singing and dancing and drumming with them was always number one. Yeah, just amazing every time.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
loved being able to witness and also, obviously partake in this the singing and drumming and stuff like that. And you
Hmm.
know, you bring up some of the really cool ones, like you know the the more personal ones that we could talk about. When the last opportunity where we got to, my family got to come and sing and share our love and respect for you. That was for me personally, like that meant a lot. Um, and I just remember um, my sister Daniela. She was just like, she sent me a message and was like, "Hey, are you available on Friday?" And she said the date, and I was like, let me check my calendar. I was like, "Yep, I'm free." I'm like, "What's going on?" She's like, "You want to come down and sing?" And I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "What's going on?" She's like, "Oh, it's Kelsey's last day." I'm like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "Sorry, I forgot about that." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Say less, I'm there." And so like it was really cool to be able to partake in days like that, to show that love and respect through song and through the dancing and drumming and singing, for people like you and Cameron, who poured so much of yourself into our children to uplift their voices, uplift their spirits. That meant a lot to our community, and specifically, obviously, you have a strong connection to my sister, and so being able to to honor that relationship that you share with her, and and by proxy, you and I became friends too, and so it's really
Mhm.
cool to see all of these amazing things happening through our connection to community and to culture, and I think one of the things that I absolutely loved when to kind of like spur on the kids and encourage them when all the we would do the Iron Man song, and we would split off, and then the girls were on that side and the boys were on this side, and we took those moments to throw a little bit of a competition in there, but we were like nudging the kids like, get ready, we're going to take down the girls today, and then the girls, you see you all getting the girls all riled up, getting ready to out sing the boys. Majority of the time, I'll admit it publicly, we lost a lot of the times, but we
We
held
had a
our
lot
own.
of girls.
Yeah, it's true, but
Yeah.
we did hold our own, and I think
Hmm.
over the last like couple years, like you like you'd mentioned it, it took a little work to get the boys engaged, but
Yeah.
once like myself and Ferg and my brother-in-law Chris was coming around, and my dad was coming out, and Uncle Ray was coming out, and so we had a lot of like stronger male singers there, and I think that kind of did help uplift the boys like
Yeah.
spirits a little bit, and you know we were kind of obviously like Uncle Ray and my dad, they're really competitive, so they're like, we're not going to let the girls beat us, so they're like nudging the boys, like getting them all ready to really belt it out, so
And
that
I
was always
think
really fun.
having a lot of men that are active in the cultural community as well, and the kids knew that, and I think that that also really drove the boys because they are such a huge part in the cultural part of it as well. And I think that that really helped to see them be like, this is okay. You're allowed to engage in this and you're
Hmm.
allowed to have fun with this. Again, I think that goes back to that whole having fun, competitiveness and laughing and being silly with it a little bit,
Yeah.
and to be like, it's not all just about serious.
Hmm.
And I think that, and I have to mention Nate because
Yeah.
he was a huge part of our community singing, and he was at the school when I got there, and
Hmm.
and was there after me, and I think that he was a huge influence on a lot of the kids,
Hmm.
and I hope that he knows that, they looked up
Hmm.
to him hugely as well. And it was like if him and Ferg were both away, I was like, oh God, I have to lead alone today. It was so scary. But
Yeah.
the kids always stepped up. They really did. And I'd be
Hmm.
Tegan, especially, I'd be like, girl, I need you today. She's like,
Yeah.
okay, okay, yeah, I got you, and a lot of those girls at that age, I'd be like, you guys, I need you. I'm not doing that alone. And they're like,
Hmm.
okay, okay, and
Yeah.
they would step up because I was like, it's your time to shine. And
Yeah.
they did. And
Yeah.
a lot of the boys started to, once it started catching, it was almost like a bad cold, like everybody
Hmm.
was wanting to solo. We didn't even have enough time for everybody to solo. It was really cool to have
Hmm.
that problem, and
Yeah.
yeah, and the Iron Man especially they really loved, and the friendship song, to get
Hmm.
that chance to solo was really cool. And I really thank Dave Harris for bringing the Iron Man into our school and
Hmm.
getting permission from the family to use it. And that was a big game changer for
Yeah.
making it fun too,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Bringing that
definitely.
fun part to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was fun.
absolutely. That was always a good moment.
Yeah, just seeing, like, I just remember always like seeing Nate too. He was always getting into it and just kind of like egging the girls on too.
In his typical Nate way.
Yeah, exactly. It was so much fun.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's one of my goals this year. My principal kind of said to me, "Oh, I really hope that, we can help you bring in some of the things that into our school and help us." And we have a new Indigenous support worker this year, and I'm hoping to
Hmm.
connect with them. And I'm not sure, what their ties are. And
Hmm.
I had Cameron come in one day near the end of the year. Last year, he had a day where he could come in,
Mm.
and he sang with my class, and that was
Right
really
on.
fun. A bunch of students were looking at us out on the field with our drums, and our lady that we had working with us had a class set of drums, and my kids they started doing that on Aboriginal Day. We sang Patrick Aleck's song because our
Hmm.
school always sang that song.
Yeah.
And my kids were all like, "Can I get a drum?" And I was like, "Oh, they want a drum." It was so great, And I connected with Patrick this summer as well. I saw him down at the market one day and I said,
Mhm.
I need to bring you back. My kids miss you. They
Mm.
all love your song and they love you. And he's like, let's make it happen,
Mm.
and him and Nate both said to me, you know, don't be afraid to teach it. You're allowed to
Mhm.
teach these songs, certain ones, that they wrote, Nate's song that he wrote and
Mhm.
all the things. And I've asked, Adam and Cam, like, what am I allowed to sing with my kids?
Mm.
And I've warned the teachers, I'm gonna annoy you with the sound of drums in
Heck
the
yeah.
hallway, and all your kids are gonna want to come. So just be
Mhm.
prepared. Because at our old school, when you heard drums, all the kids wanted to go.
Come on.
But I'm hoping this year that I can bring songs and
Yeah.
more traditional activities into my classroom.
Mhm.
Um, I would love to see more support to honor our knowledge keepers with honorariums.
Mhm.
I'm new to the district. I'm new to how things work in the district. And I had,
Mm.
asked about honorariums, and it comes out of my personal classroom budget, which is not very big, um, and comes out of my supply money for my students and my classroom money,
Mm.
which is great that I have that money. But I would like there to be, if we're going to be bringing these things where we're like, yeah, we want to bring more Indigenous education, we need to know that we got to honor. We can't expect that
Mhm.
knowledge to be just, you know, bountiful and time is just free.
Mm.
Um, we need to honor our guests for their knowledge and their time and their sharing. And, we pay for performances to come into our school and do performances. And I would like
Mm.
to have, Ramona come in and do Cedar with my kids. And
Oh
I'd
my
love to
gosh,
have, and
yeah.
I can teach it to them. She taught me and said, share it, but I'd rather give her,
Mm.
an honor and respect of what she knows and what she can do. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's one thing I'm going to push for this year in my own
Mhm.
school is to bring more of that into the school and,
Mhm.
just, yeah, really help more kids find access to it, I
Mhm.
guess, and be able to heal through that culture, I think is so important.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm. That'd be
It's
awesome.
funny how so many of the Indigenous kids, I didn't even teach them, and they were like, "Hey, bestie," just like they just instantly. It's like I don't know if I just go to them right away, and I'm
Mm.
like, I just want to connect with you. Like I don't know if that's like intrinsically something that I'm doing because I
Mm.
know so much that I have so much to offer them, but I just like it's so funny. I had like a whole little herd of them that would come up to me and I was like, I don't even teach you. It's my first
Mm.
year here and I don't even know you. But
Mm.
it was really neat to be like, okay, I can maybe help some people here find access to their culture
Mm.
and maybe help them feel more comfortable because I know one of my personal students, her attendance improved greatly through the year.
Mm.
And, I was a split teacher. I shared with a vice principal, and
Mhm.
she was always like, "Oh, you're with us all day tomorrow. I'm definitely coming to school." It's like, those are the types of things I want to hear, and I want
Mhm.
you to want to be there. And yeah,
Mm.
not. I never try to be like I'm so great, but I feel proud when I feel like I've been able to break through to a student. It's hard sometimes. It's
Yeah.
hard to let them to trust you.
Mhm.
They don't give their trust away easily. And so
Mhm.
it's always like, you're my goal this year. You're gonna trust me. And I've been able to break through to a couple that I never thought I would, and I'm still connected to them and
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah, become a large part of some of their lives, and I'm very happy to be a part of their lives.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that too. And it's always neat when you have that opportunity to be like a young person's like safe person. That always like
Yeah.
felt so good. And I know, in my previous role, um, I had that opportunity to be a safe person for a handful of kids. That was so impactful. And and then being able to just, it's not even a lot of the times it's not like huge grand gestures. Sometimes it's just some of the smaller things like, like, oh man, like I remember this one young guy I worked with, and Um, I was just got to the jam session. I went and sat down, and I was just sitting on the bleachers, and he came up to me and was like, "Oh yeah, it's good to see you." I'm like, "Hey man, like what's happening?" He's like, "I'm playing basketball, right?" I'm like, "Oh no,
Hmm.
I kind of heard a little bit here and there that you're playing." And he's, "We got a game this weekend. Are you coming?" And I was like, "Cool, yeah, I'll come. I'll come watch you."
Hmm.
And like he's a little bit rougher on the edges, but that was like him
Yeah,
opening up, right? Having that.
totally.
You coming to my game? Like, and I was like, "Yeah, buddy, I'm
You're
there."
like, well, I can't say no now.
Yeah, yeah. So it's cool. Yeah.
I think that's really what you said there is so like what I love about teaching is being that safe person, and
Mhm.
I've thought about going into counseling for years because I feel like that's a lot of what I do is a bit of counseling and a bit of being there for people, but I would miss being with the kids every day. So I
Mm.
don't know if I would love that, but being a safe person, absolutely. Being that person that if they feel like they have nobody that they
Mm.
can trust or that they can just speak their mind and not even, like you said, not even ask for anything back. They just
Mhm.
want to tell you, or they just want to feel like somebody's proud of them,
Yeah.
or they just want someone to stand next to because they just need to feel protected today, or,
Mhm.
whatever. And I think that that's really important for all kids because we are also in a society nowadays where all parents are working and
Mhm.
maybe they can't make it to the basketball game and maybe that kid just wants someone to come watch them
Mhm.
and it's not maybe not a negative thing on their family or their guardians. It's just that they're working maybe or they have other kids to take care of or they have other things that they need to do to supply everyday life things for them,
Mhm.
but they want you to be proud of them and they want
Yeah.
someone that they feel like they can just go to. And that's always before teaching for me. I would rather be a safe person and say, I didn't really teach them much math this year, but hey, they opened up to me about this and this and this, and I helped them with that. And
Mhm.
I enjoy teaching the younger kids now. I
Mm.
love them all, honestly, but like, with the younger kids, I feel like I have more lenience to say, oh, we didn't get to that lesson today, but we
Mm.
talked about this. And I think that that's really needed.
Mhm.
I am in a high risk area of town, and so there's a lot of that and
Mm.
behaviors and aggression and things like that. And that is the number one, right? How to
Mm.
be in the environment and the safety. Safety is huge. And
Mhm.
my ex-husband used to say, it's a good thing we don't have a big house
Mm.
because you have a lot of kids coming home with you. And I always laughed at that. And I said,
Mm.
yeah, I probably would, anytime someone just needed somewhere for a night or
Mm.
something. It's hard. It
Mhm.
take a lot home with you and lots of nights sitting at home just thinking about kids, wondering if they're okay and,
Mhm.
you know, hoping they would come back soon because they've been gone for a couple days and I didn't know what was going on or
Mhm.
just knowing that they were struggling internally. And,
Mhm.
unfortunately, we had lost some students in a variety of different ways. And
Mhm.
it's sad and it's hard. And I can't even imagine growing up with some of the challenges that some of our kids face.
Yeah.
I had a very soft, cushy childhood, and
Mm.
I never pretend to know what they're going through. And especially when it comes to, growing up in a community that's been stolen from and
Mm.
oppressed and
Yeah.
really struggled with those things. And I know that, you've been through that and I haven't. And yeah, just to be there to listen, you
Mhm.
know. And like you said, it's really hard to be a settler and come in into a community. And it wasn't easy.
Mm.
And there was times I went to Papa Ed's funeral and I remember I'm assuming you were there.
Mhm.
I remember the speaker uh, very specifically talking about people being there for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And, I was new to the community at the time, but I walked by Daniela and she gave me a nod. And I was
Mhm.
like, right, it's okay for me to be here.
Mhm.
I'm invited to be here and my heart is in the right place and
Mhm.
I am here in the right way. And at first I was like, whoa, that's so mean to
Mm.
us, But I also get why he said it because
Mhm.
there's a lot of people that aren't into things for the right reasons.
Mm.
And I can't imagine being somebody that needs to really trust people on that. So I feel very lucky that I was trusted and very
Mhm.
lucky that people knew that I was in it for the right reasons and that I was always there for the kids. Always. It's always
Mhm.
about the kids. Everything I did was for the kids.
Mhm.
And I guess the kids knew that because
Yeah.
they accepted me,
Yeah.
and I felt like a second mom to a lot of them. And
Mhm.
everybody'd be like, which kids? I'm like, my home kids or my school kids or, which kids am I talking about? But they're my kids. They are my
Mhm.
kids. They still are. I still love them and miss them. And even the grown up kids now, they're all in their 20s and still love them, still miss them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that kind of leads into one of your last questions was what
Mhm.
is my advice for
Yeah.
people? And it's just to be honest. And I know Cameron said to be true to who you are and
Mhm.
don't be fake. There were some people that came into our school a few times and the kids just didn't like them.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because I was like, they can see that they're putting on a mask
Yeah.
and trying to be someone that they're not. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that do appropriate the culture
Mhm.
and they do use it in a disrespectful way, not honoring who they got the knowledge from, not saying they understand, why there's reservations or why you need to say so and so taught me this, or like, oh, why can't I just sell some beaded earrings? I learned how to make them. Well, that's not right.
Mhm.
Like that's not okay. And I could bead earrings in how I know how to bead, which was just putting beads on a string. Like I grew up beading as a kid, but I'm not going to pretend that mine are, try to be indigenous. Like I'm not indigenous. It's not my culture to claim. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that do that.
Mhm.
And it makes people like me always worry that people are thinking the wrong thing about me. Like I
Mhm.
always was worried that people were going to think that I was like that because, I have a lot of indigenous, a lot of them are gifts. A lot of them I bought from Candace. She's an amazing earring artist. Everybody go buy
Mhm.
from her.
Yeah.
These ones I got in Lummy,
Mhm.
and I just think they're beautiful and I want to give money to people that are making them because I think that they're so talented.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think that my advice, mostly to teachers, is bring it into your classroom, but
Mhm.
make sure you're finding the right resources. And if you can bring in the knowledge keepers, do it.
Mhm.
100%. Don't be afraid to try. Because if you don't, we want you to try. Everybody wants you to try. Because if you don't try, it's just never going to work.
Mhm.
But ask, ask
Yeah.
questions. Ask your Hokuminum teacher, what else can you bring in? Can you bring in anything else that on top of the language? Can we make anything? Can you
Mhm.
share, like, what kinds of things would you like to share with the students?
Mhm.
Do you want to come in an extra day or can you come in an extra
Mhm.
day? Or how do you say this? How do you say that? Right? Ask those questions. Teach
Mhm.
the kids to ask questions. They're afraid. Teach
Yeah.
them to ask questions. And as a staff, ask questions too. We have
Mhm.
Indigenous support workers, we have Indigenous resources through NLPS. Ask your
Mhm.
librarian to help you, right? We have so many books now, so many stories. Strong Nations has amazing books and resources.
Mhm.
Um, I have my Wild Woman story that Mabel did the story transcription for, and
Mhm.
then John John did the
Mhm.
pictures, and so I
Mhm.
have a copy of that book that was gifted to me that I still bring in and read to my students,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then I show them Cameron's students film. Did you see that one?
Oh.
Oh my god, you haven't seen it? Oh, you gotta watch it. YouTube,
Mhm.
Staminas Wild Woman.
Mhm.
So funny, so good. And my kids think it's the best thing ever. And
Mhm.
yeah, just be willing. to try it yourself.
Mhm.
That's the big thing. As settlers, we're so afraid to do it wrong.
Mm. Mhm.
But you have to try. Like you
Yeah.
have to try or it'll never happen. And I might say things wrong or I might do things wrong, but as long as you're like, "Oh, I tried and I wasn't sure and now I'm going to fix it." Right? So don't be afraid to try
Mm.
and yeah, bring people in. We have so many resources in
Mhm.
Snuneymuxw and Staminas. It's amazing, and they're busy. Patrick is really busy, which is amazing, and I love that
Mhm.
he's busy. But I'm gonna get him back in this year,
Yeah.
And I just reach out to people. I'm like, hey, do you have any time that you'd want to come share with the youth? And some people might want to just come in because they want to share with the youth, and that's
Mhm.
great. But I'd love to be able to honor them with more than just their time for
Mhm.
free. But yeah, I think that's my advice to people is just to have an open heart, have your
Mhm.
heart in a good place, do it for the right reasons. Um, I healed a lot through your
Mm.
culture, and I'm so thankful for that. I went through a lot of hard changes in my life. Sometimes being at school and being with my students was the escape I needed.
Mm.
I felt loved.
Mhm.
Faye and Ramona were like my rocks some
Mm.
days. And I'm so thankful for that. And, Tim was a big part of that for me.
Mhm.
And they knew everything that was going on in my life. And Carly, who I'm still in connection with,
Mhm.
me and her are still best friends. And we went through that together, a lot of
Mhm.
that together. And, she's another person that did it for the right reasons.
Mhm.
And I just think that the kids know when you're in it for them.
Yeah.
They know if you're not. And that's the biggest thing.
Mhm.
If you're there for the kids, be there for the kids
Mhm.
because that's a career versus being a job. And
Yeah.
I know that because you're in it for the culture and you're in it for the kids and culture because it's your culture, right? And
Yeah.
I'm in it for the kids. That's why I'm a teacher because I think that our youth are our future and our youth are amazing and they deserve more than is given to them these days, especially, it feels like,
Mm.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that, my friend. And I, appreciate you spending the time today to come and sit with me and share your stories. And I think it's very important. And I'm sure that there are going to be people who listen who are going to take from your own experiences. And so thank you for your time, and I appreciate the stories. And so thank you all so much for tuning in yet again. And thank all the listeners for continuously coming back. And I hope to catch you all in the next one. Heichke,
Hey,
Eowyn.